I've talked to people making $150, $200, $300,000 a year, and some of them still feel broke. It's not because they need to make more money. Of course they don't, but it's what they're doing after they get paid that's keeping them stuck. In fact, a huge percentage of high earners are still living paycheck to paycheck. For example, a recent stat showed that 40% of 300K plus earners self-identify as living paycheck to paycheck. So as you can see here, as the income goes up, the paycheck to paycheck people goes down until it hits $300,000 a year, right? What is happening here? So in this video, not only am I going to break down the 7 ways that high earners waste money, but how I personally use my 6-figure salary to pay off $43,000 worth of debt and turn that into a net worth of multiple hundreds of thousands. Because the biggest lie I hear in personal finances is I need to make more money. Everyone says this. It doesn't matter how much you actually make, but here's the reality. Making more money doesn't solve your money problems. It just makes them bigger. It amplifies them, because when your income goes up, your decisions matter way more. And most high earners aren't necessarily making bad decisions. They're just making expensive ones because they don't have a money system yet to understand the entire process. So the first thing that high earners do to waste their money is obviously they upgrade their lifestyle way too fast. And this list, by the way, is stuff that I have personally been through. That's why I can speak through it, okay? And this is the big one, because you get a raise, you've been working hard, and immediately it feels like you should be rewarding yourself and giving yourself upgrades in life. And sure, celebrate a raise or all of your hard work. But this can mean like a better apartment or house or nicer furniture, a bigger car, more expensive habits to hang out with the people that you want to, aspire to be, or your friend group that, throws cash around, whatever, right? Because it all doesn't happen at once. It happens in layers. So you upgrade one thing. Now everything feels out of place. So you upgrade that too. And this is called the Diderot effect, where let's say you buy a new couch in your living room, and then you're like, oh, you know what? The lamps don't really go with the couch. So you buy new lamps. And then you're like, oh, you know what? The end tables don't really go with this whole thing at all. And then you're like, oh, the carpet, oh, the blinds, oh, the paint on the wall, oh, and then you spiral out of control. And then the raise that you just got, the increase of income is just going now to furnish your living room, right? The recommendation I have is just slow down your upgrades and really look at something called a North Star goal list. So you write down the things that matter to you the most, and then you only apply your resources to those things. I can imagine most people wouldn't put, a nicer living room, just to keep that example going, on their North Star goal list. It's probably like, oh, I want to retire sooner. I want to make sure that my kids have the right structure in place financially so that they can succeed as well. Things like that, right? So let your income grow faster than your lifestyle. And that gap is where the wealth is built. Income minus expenses. The next thing that high earners waste money on is buying status instead of freedom. A lot of high earners spend money on things that look like success, okay? The cars, the watches, the fancy gyms, the expensive clothes, right? But none of those things actually move your life forward. And again, we have to kind of go back to this North Star goal list thing. Would any of those items be on your North Star goals? I don't know. Because you're not really buying the thing, you're buying how it makes you look to the outside world. So if that's important to you, amazing, success. But if you actually want to win and you actually want to, grow your personal finances, become more valuable, like your net worth or something like that, this game of looking the part instead of being the part is a dangerous game, because there's always a higher level. There's always the next thing that you could amplify yourself with status, right? Instead, we should maybe ask a different question. Does this purchase buy me freedom, or does it just buy me attention? Ooh, and that probably stings a little bit, right? Because freedom compounds, right? Financial freedom, the idea of getting there compounds. But status doesn't really compound, because you buy a thing, and quite honestly, the appeal of that new thing eventually just wears off. The next thing that high earners waste money on is they're paying for small time savings that don't matter. Now, this one might be a little controversial because a lot of people love the idea of buying their time back, but I think a lot of high earners are doing it wrong. And again, this is from personal experience. High earners love convenience. That's great. I love to be convenienced. Food delivery, Ubering to places, avoiding small inconveniences by paying a little more. And again, I'm all for buying back your time, and I'm going to share a couple things that I'm doing personally right now. But most people aren't buying back meaningful time, right? So we're spending $20 to save 15 minutes, or all of these things, and these little chunk expenses really do add up. They save minutes instead of cutting it all out and just being more intentional. So What I really like to do is pay for big time savings and not small ones. Yet, eventually, we want to get all the time back. At least I do. I mean, I've got 2 kids. We're trying to do other things in my life. So, for example, recently we agreed to start having a landscaper come through, and that's really uncomfortable because it's like $270 a month. It's going to be or something like that for them to come twice a month. But for me, I was the one that was doing all that stuff, and I would save, we'll call it 4 to 8 hours a month. That sounds pretty cool, right? 4 to 8 hours a month to spend more time with my family, to have more energy on things that matter to me the most. Me cutting my lawn it's not something I care about. It's not on my North Star goal list. I don't need to have the nicest lawn in the neighborhood. And even if I do, I don't really want to be the one to maintain it because that's a lot of work. I don't care enough, right? So that's how we have to think through this. But how I started was the grocery store near us. They do they put all the groceries together. We pay $4 a week to save like an hour. And we don't have to deal with the grocery store. We don't have to deal with all the people that are standing in front of the milk and they're like deciding on the milk. Like, get out of the way. You already know what milk you want. Just please move, right? So these are the actual things that improve the quality of your life. And think through like what actually changes and what maybe is just a little more convenience right now that I can just kind of figure out in the current, and then over time we expand to getting all of our time back. The next thing that high earners waste money on is carrying high interest debt while trying to invest. I see this a lot, and personally this makes 0 sense, but it happens all the time. People are investing and they're trying to get those 8 to 10% returns. That's the kind of standard of, if you just invest in the US stock market over a long enough period of time, that's kind of the return for that 8 to 12%, we'll call it, right? But they're carrying credit card debt that's over 20%. So if you just do the quick interest rate math there, 20% of negative interest and 10% of positive interest, you're losing that battle every single time. So if you have high interest debt, that should be the priority. And paying that off is a guaranteed return. A lot of people don't talk about this. Investing, definitely not a guaranteed return. Definitely not. There is risk to it. Of course, over a long enough time horizon, you're probably fine. But who knows with all the doom and gloom out there? Who knows, right? Whatever. But with the debt, there's no risk. There's no volatility. You're just saving more money in your pocket, actually, so that you can pay it off, and then so that you can put money towards the wealth generating activities later on. The next thing that high earners waste their money on is not having a system for their money. And I see this one a lot, especially inside of my personal finance community. High income, but no system. So again, these are the people that I was talking about in the beginning, where they were making $150,000+ a year, and they feel like they're living paycheck to paycheck because they haven't built the system. They're just going through life. They're on the treadmill. Maybe they're going through what I call the seesaw, where they have a couple great months, a couple bad months, a couple great months, and they don't have a way to plan for things to pop up in their life. They don't have a way to pay themselves first, meaning their future financial goals or the things that are on their North Star goal list. None of these things exist, and that's why they feel like they're in this hamster wheel that they can't get out of. Because they're not irresponsible. Like, if you make a good salary, like, you're good, you're responsible. You go to your job, you do a great job, you over deliver. The idea is everything just becomes a little too reactive. We want to turn that reactivity into proactivity. If you don't have a system, you'll always feel behind no matter how much you make. So the fix here is simple. So we want to automate our bills, okay? Automate the stuff that we owe, just out of sight, out of mind. We want to automate those future financial goals. Again, assuming that that's important to you. And if you're watching this video, it probably is. And you just want to give your spending a clear structure. You want to be able to know, what can I do with the money that I have, not what can't I do, right? Kind of reshift that into an intentional mindset with our money. Because clarity removes stress. And if any of these things of how high earners are spending money have hit home with you, and you're someone who makes way too much money to feel like you're struggling every single month, I'm opening up some spots in my 6-week 1K money challenge, helping you find at least $1,000 hiding in your finances so that you can get more clarity and start growing your assets instead of your stress. More information on that is below this video. The next thing that high earners waste money on is they're keeping way too much cash. Now, I get this. Maybe part of it is nervous to, not have a big enough buffer. I get it. It feels safe, but it's quietly hurting you. And a lot of high earners keep large amounts of cash just sitting in, we'll call them non-efficient bank accounts or accounts, whatever. Now, at first, if you're just kind of starting through this process, I would not worry about optimizing your money. I know there's a lot of stuff about there about like where to put it, how much you should be doing, like do this, do that, do this, do that, optimize it in the best way. Here's the best tax strategy. Here's the best whatever, right? If you're just starting out, just like do something, create a buffer somewhere. But then over time, we want to start thinking about how do we optimize this? Because at the end of the day, if we just have a large pile of cash, like in the most extreme example, if I just had a pile of cash right here, it's not growing. It's actually losing value over time, right? Because of inflation and everything like that. So the reason why we invest and we put money towards wealth generating activities is so that it can be more valuable over time as money becomes less valuable, right? So we want to try to break inflation. So you're just working hard to earn it, and then it just sits there and it does nothing. So instead, keep what you need for emergencies and put the rest to work. So what I personally do, in our checking account, we have a line where we have 3 mortgage payments and we treat that as our zero. And then we just go that's the day-to-day spending. We have savings with a little bit in it. Again, just like as another little barrier. And then we have an emergency fund of, we actually have quite a lot of money in there, but we've built up the buffer. I would recommend maybe, 5%, maybe 10% in your short-term stability accounts. So like you're checking your savings, high yield savings, things like that. That's what has worked for me in the past. Let me know down below this video, what percentage of your net worth do you have in your like short-term stability accounts? I think that'd be interesting to see. The next thing that high earners waste money on is ignoring the small leaks. Now, this can be annoying because I don't want this to turn into like, hey, stop buying your Starbucks coffee, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not one thing that's going to, move the needle, right? If you like Starbucks coffee, buy your Starbucks coffee. Like the amount of content that people make around that is ridiculous. But it's not the like one big mistake. It's actually like 20, 30, 50 mistakes or 50 of these little purchases. And it's basically like death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? Because the amount of times that I've helped people in their personal finances and they go through the first step, which is doing a 3-month look back, where you look back 3 months. Hey, where did I spend all my money over the last 3 months? The point here is to find extra money in our finances so that we can apply it towards our North Star goal list and put it towards things that actually matter to us the most. So when people do that, they're like, wow, I just instantly found $200 to $1,000 a month. And it's crazy because it's these 20 small things that in the moment you're like, oh, it's $7, oh, $12, oh, it's $4. But those things add up and those turns into hundreds of dollars a month, right? And it's just kind of silly. So these are things that high earners don't notice, specifically high earners, because they're less in tune with those smaller amounts. They don't think they matter. And to a certain extent, they don't. But if there's 50 of them, they definitely do. So over time, these leaks will compound. Imagine if you had an extra $500,000 a month to be able to put towards more wealth generating activities so that you can do the thing in the future that you really want to or need to do. So the fix is simple. To start tracking your money. And yes, we're going to use the B word here. We're going to budget. We're going to do the 3-month look back. We're going to align it with our North Star goals. And then we're going to create a new budget based on our new lifestyle that we want to do in order to reach the goals that we have. At the end of the day, guys, this isn't about restriction. It's about intentionality. It's about control. And the goal isn't just to make more money. Hopefully if you're still watching this, you know now that, okay, I don't need to make more. I just need to be a little more thoughtful, intentional with what I'm doing with my money. Because the difference between someone making $200,000 in building wealth and someone making $200,000 and staying stuck is what happens immediately after payday. So go check out the 6-week challenge with this video right over here.